No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 536. And I can't actually believe today that I'm about to say what I'm about to say. But our belief is that Ann Widdecombe has been murdered at her home in Devon. This is obviously an incredibly difficult story for me because Ann Widdecombe was a colleague and a friend and was there for me in my absolute lowest moments. But earlier this afternoon, it was actually our mutual friend Alani Dowding who messaged me with the news that the family believed that Widdy, and I say that with great affection because that is what I called her, had been murdered. Sources have since told me that Ann Widdecombe's family have been told that the blunt force trauma to her head was intense. The Devon and Cornwall police will be making a statement soon. We are going to bring it to you live, of course, and cover this story. But why has this happened? We don't know yet. And I want to read to you what a source close to Anne has told us today. They say we can't jump to the conclusion that it's politically motivated just yet. It could have been financially motivated. She was a vulnerable older lady who had made money via TV appearances and lived by herself, which could have made her a target for criminals. I want to take you through the police statement from Devon and Cornwall. And we will, as I say, cross directly to them as soon as this press conference begins. But they said a murder investigation has been launched following the suspicious death of former MP Ann Widdecombe at her home on Dartmoor in Devon. Police officers were called to an address at Hayter by the ambulance service at around 11:40 a.m. on Thursday, the 9th of July. Sadly, 78-year-old Miss Widdecombe was located deceased within the property. She had sustained serious injuries. Her next of kin have been informed and are being supported by specially trained officers. Detectives from the Force Major Crime Investigation Team have launched a murder investigation and are conducting extensive inquiries into the circumstances surrounding Miss Widdecombe's death. A cordon remains in place at the property while specialist officers continue forensic examinations. There are road closures in place around the scene. The public will see a significant police presence in the area today, while detectives and officers conduct house-to-house and CCTV inquiries. Detective Chief Inspector Alona Rosson said this is an extremely tragic incident, and our thoughts are very much with the family and friends of Ann Widdecombe at this difficult time. Our murder inquiry is in its early stages, but moving at a significant pace. We are deploying all of the necessary resources to find out exactly what has happened and to locate the person responsible, who we believe to be a white male. I would appeal to anyone who may have information about this incident, however insignificant it may seem, to come forward and speak with us. We are particularly keen to hear from anyone who may have seen anything suspicious in the vicinity of Hayter Vale, Hayter, or anyone with CCTV, doorbell, or dash cam footage which could assist with our investigation. We have an increased uniformed police presence in the area to support the investigation and provide reassurance to residents. Anyone with concerns can speak with our officers at the scene. We will release further information when we are able to do so. In the meantime, I would ask people not to speculate about what might have happened, particularly on social media. This is not only potentially harmful to our investigation, but also deeply distressing for family and friends of Ann Widdecombe. We have set up a major incident public portal for information, images, or footage to be submitted to us. You can also contact us by phone on 101 or through our website. And in the past few moments, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has spoken.
Shocking news. And my thoughts, I think all of our thoughts, will be with the family and friends of Ann Widdecombe at this awful time for them. Ann was a distinguished politician over many, many years with many achievements, and it's a huge, huge loss. I've spoken to the Chief Constable this afternoon, about the details. And I think this is really important, that this is a moment where we rise above any political differences, the political divide, and say the single most important thing at the moment is that all of us and the public help the police identify the individual suspected and make sure he's arrested as quickly as possible. He's clearly dangerous, and I implore everybody who's got any information in relation to him to help the police with their inquiries, get him into police custody. To that end, I've spoken to the Speaker of the House, I've spoken to the Leader of the Opposition, I've spoken to Nigel Farage as the Leader of Reform, and I've spoken to Andy Burnham to urge everybody to come together at a moment like this and to urge everybody to help the police. But
the Daily Mail is now confirming my reporting that Anne suffered some type of blunt force to the head in her killing. They report that she was found covered in blood from a head wound. Officers found the former Conservative Prisons Minister with serious injuries after an ambulance crew called them to the house. The 78-year-old's death was first announced by her management team this morning, and there has been no suggestion of anything other than natural causes. Forensic officers are in the process of examining Miss Widdecombe's property, which is surrounded by a cordon. Now, this just didn't seem right to me this morning. Something about this didn't seem right, because Widdy was still in fine fettle. I mean, I remember seeing her at a party not all that long ago. She was the life and soul, by the way. And she was certainly elderly, but absolutely fine. And her mind remained completely sharp. Indeed, this was a woman who just 2 days ago, in her final interview before her death with Mark Dolan on Talk TV, was speaking out about her role within Reform UK and her loyalty to Nigel Farage. And there was certainly no sign that anything was physically wrong. Look.
I've got very little trust left now in parliamentary processes. And if you look at this government, which has a majority on that committee, if you look at this government, look at the way that it's reacted when it's felt vulnerable, changes to political donations, cancelling local elections, we all remember that, going for votes at 16, loosening the voter ID requirements, you just name it. I mean, they react in such a way that is geared all around self-preservation now. Nigel is challenging that establishment, and he's called this the establishment versus the people, and I think that just about sums it up. And I'm delighted that he's taken this, because the attitude previously of politicians was that you just had to endure it. You gritted your teeth, and if you were being subject to fame after fame after fame and it wouldn't go away, you just carried on until your position became untenable. He's taking, and I drew the analogy with policy decisions earlier, he has taken this decision because he wants an end one way or the other, and he's right to do this.
I just still can't believe it. That was the home where she was murdered, if the suggestion today is indeed correct. In that final interview, Widdy also agreed with me, actually, I was delighted to see this, that the British deep state does indeed exist.
Does this establishment of which you and Nigel speak actually exist?
Yes, I believe it does. Now, I didn't always believe in that theory, but I do think now that different parts of the establishment act in ways which I think are extremely questionable. We saw it in the banking scandal. And suddenly you realise it wasn't just Nigel, a load of other people as well who didn't have the ability to publicise and fight it. So, yes, I think the establishment is there in that sense, yes.
The final interview given by Ann Widdecombe just 1 day before her death. And that's why something felt wrong to me, because I was like, she was absolutely fine and there had been no health issues whatsoever. And what has been so disturbing over the course of the day, and we will get later to some of the cretins on the left who thought that today was a good day to deride a patriot like Ann Widdecombe before they discovered that there was now a murder investigation into her death. But it has been fascinating to watch people who have paid tribute, like I did, without any understanding of what actually had happened, to now the true horror, given we know that our friend has been taken from us in a completely unnatural manner. For example, the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, and you do remember, of course, Anne was a Tory hero for so many years, a shadow minister, a prisons minister, but defected to the Brexit Party to join with Nigel Farage because she was so passionate about the need to leave the European Union. So before we knew what had happened today, Kemi Badenoch posted my deepest condolences and those of the Conservative Party to the family and friends of Ann Widdecombe. She was a formidable politician who was never afraid to speak her mind and fought hard for what she believed. Always true to herself, her politics was strongly guided by her faith and her values. Rest in peace, Anne. But after the news that it now appears that Ann Widdecombe was murdered, Kemi Badenoch has taken to the cameras and said this in the past hour.
I'm stunned. To be honest, I don't really have the words for what we've discovered has happened. Ann Widdecombe was 78 years old. She was a fun and very feisty person, but she was an elderly person. I don't understand how someone could do something like this. It's a nasty, horrific attack. And I'm just heartbroken thinking about her family. It's one thing when an elderly person dies, but to know that this is that they were killed, I can't imagine what they must be going through. And I understand that the person is still at large. I hope that the perpetrator is caught as quickly as possible so that he is not a danger to anyone else.
Sadly, many of our left-wing politicians have only decided to weigh in after it appeared that Ann Widdecombe had been murdered. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, posting on X, "I am deeply saddened to hear of the death of Ann Widdecombe. The circumstances of her death are extremely distressing, and my thoughts are with Anne's family and loved ones. Anne's dedication to public service was decades long, and she was a true servant of her constituents. I've spoken to the Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall Police today. The Home Office stands ready to provide whatever support they need with their ongoing investigation. I urge everyone to avoid speculation and allow the police investigation to progress." Now, when I woke up this morning to this news, and I was heartbroken before there was even a suggestion of a murder probe, I was also disgusted because, and I say this as a gay man, Ann Widdecombe was a friend to me, and she was a patriot, and she wanted to bring this country together. And yet within just 30 seconds of their breaking news coverage this morning, the scum at Sly News decided to suggest that because she advocated for Christian positions, for positions that the majority of the country agreed with, Ann Widdecombe was in some way divisive. Watch this.
Some breaking news to bring you now, and it follows the announcement of the death of the former MP Ann Widdecombe at the age of 78. Well, Devon and Cornwall Police have said they are now investigating.
Besides from participating in Strictly Come Dancing in recent years, she became a member of the Brexit Party in 2019 and rejoined Reform UK. And in recent years, she became a member of the Brexit Party, as we said, but she was known for her divisive politics, having expressed her opposition to same-sex marriage and in favour of reintroducing the death penalty.
How dare you? How dare you? There was nothing divisive about Ann Widdecombe. Her entire life was spent trying to bring this country together. And because she backed her Christian values, you describe her as divisive? Because she wanted to introduce the death penalty, something that, if you look at any major poll of the British public, is something that the vast majority of this country agree with. You describe her as divisive? It's disgusting. But unfortunately, it's got worse over the course of today. And these people are showing who they really are. Like Supatansky, who posted Ann Widdecombe starting her descent into hell. Or Peter Tatchell, who wrote, Tory ex-MP Ann Widdecombe is dead. She opposed every gay law reform for 40 years, supported every legal discrimination against LGBTs. She also backed bids to cure homosexuality and said people should have the right to discriminate against LGBTs. Bigot. Well, let me tell you, Peter Tatchell, there was nothing bigoted about Ann Widdecombe. She was a Christian woman who stood by her beliefs and stood by her values, and they mattered to her. She remained a virgin because she had never married. That mattered to her. Would you have the same problem if we were talking about an Islamist politician? No, you wouldn't. And again, I repeat, as a gay man, an openly gay man, Ann Widdecombe was a friend to me, a good friend to me. And someone who, in my lowest moment, having been unfairly, in my view, cancelled from GB News, where the vast majority of people decided to run away, guess who was there? Widdy. Guess who was writing in support of me, speaking out in support of me? Widdy. Do you really think she'd do that? Peter Tatchell, if she was a bigot? Seriously, this is a sickness. It is an illness. And even though we do not know yet about the circumstances in terms of how Ann Widdecombe was murdered, and we do await this press conference from Devon and Cornwall Police where we potentially will learn more, what I can tell you is the type of hatred on the left of British politics does not surprise me that this type of thing happens. So just to repeat the news, a family source has told me that Ann Widdecombe was murdered because of a blunt force intense trauma to her head. The source says, we can't jump to any conclusions that it is politically motivated just yet. They say it could have been financially motivated. She was a vulnerable older lady who had made money via TV appearances and lived by herself, which could have made her a target for criminals. I want to bring in today's superstar panel now as we await news from the Devon and Cornwall Police, joined by the Conservative commentator Peter C. Barnes and Restore Britain's spokesperson for the safety of women and girls. Oh, how ironic. Orla Minnie-Hain. And Orla, you actually joined Reform UK as a result of Ann Widdecombe, didn't you?
So I saw Anne at a conference where she was talking about security, border security, and the invasion of our country by illegal migrants. And do you know what, Dan? She spoke for 45 minutes without looking at a piece of paper, without looking at anything prompt. She was so articulate, so passionate. And I just remember looking at her thinking, wow, what a powerhouse. And I then went to a dinner in Essex and she was a guest speaker. And that's where she was I just had her book and she signed her book for me. And I had a chat with her and she was a tiny little thing. And I'm very big, 5'10". And I remember just wanting to pick her up and give her a big hug. And she was just she spoke to everybody. Just an absolute lady is what she was. And this morning I was devastated and loads of people know how much I adored her. And that was one of the reasons I joined Reform, because I just thought she was so fantastic and such a wonderful spokeswoman and, you know, an advocate for strong women. And I just loved her. And this morning people have called me and said, oh, you must be so upset Anne's died. And my mum called me. And now to hear this news, I just cannot believe that this has happened. I mean, look, it happens. We know it happens. We know what state this country's in. We know we've got a crime epidemic. We know we've got a rape epidemic. We know that there is just, you know, it's turned. I don't recognize the country anymore. I just don't recognize it. And I said a few years ago, we will end up like South Africa if we're not careful. And look what's happening.
Indeed,
I worked in South Africa.
Sorry,
go on.
Well, no, I'm just saying an elderly, you know, a wonderful elderly woman, even if Ann Widdecombe had no public profile. The fact that this has happened and can happen is unfortunately an indictment of what is happening to our country. And it's what she has fought so hard against, Orla. So unfortunately, there is a cruel, cruel irony in this.
Irony. Yeah, there is. There is. And I mean, look, you know, how many times do we have to, and we don't know we don't know the scenario, we don't know who the perpetrator was, so we can't discuss this. But ultimately, an old lady living in her house in quite a secluded area. It's not like she was in South London or East London. And whatever has happened, she has been murdered. And this is the United Kingdom in 2026. What is going on?
100%.
It is just, I can't, it's mind-boggling.
It is.
Mind-boggling.
Peter, I just want to tell you what Peter Tatchell has now, just before we came on air, tried to clarify. He says, contrary to the responses to my earlier post, I did not celebrate Ann Widdecombe's death, RIP, highlighting the harm and suffering she helped cause to LGBTs. My post was scheduled long before reports that she was murdered were published. I only heard this 10 minutes ago. No one deserves to die, let alone be murdered. Rest in peace. And do you accept that, Peter?
I don't like to swear very often, Dan, and I apologise, but Peter Tatchell, go fuck yourself. Frankly, abhorrent waste of space, carbon, oxygen, and just time and effort and energy has been poured into that absolute rancid individual. And that is how he talks about people. He thinks he's some kind of great bastion of bringing people together. He's more divisive than anybody else in the LGBT community that I know. And I'm an open gay man like you, Dan. And I met Ann Widdecombe 15, 16 times. I went back through my diaries. Every time was a delight. She was funny, she was full of energy, and she was charming, and she was nice and polite. No word there can be described to Peter Tatchell or any of the absolute vermin that we've seen running around social media today. And just, you know, obviously we've just found out about this new revelation. But to describe the way this woman, who is a patriot, who did put her constituency first, who served the nation, who has done more for this country than any other little troglodyte with a fake Twitter account has ever done or ever will do, the way they've spoken about her is abhorrent. And I sometimes wonder whether the country is worth saving when these things happen. It really makes me question, what are we actually fighting for? Because it's not these people. It's the people like Anne who inspire people like Orla and me. It's just rancid.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. There have, of course, been amazing reactions earlier in the day to the death of Ann Widdecombe. And this was before anyone knew about the fact that she was murdered, or at least likely murdered. And I repeat, do stay with us because we are awaiting this press conference from the Devon and Cornwall police. But Rupert Lowe, the leader of your party, Orla, Restore Britain, posted Anne was a patriot. She took absolutely no nonsense and had a wonderful sense of humour. She will be missed. Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, writing, when Ann Widdecombe decided to stand for the Brexit Party in the snap 2019 European elections, it was a big moment and huge boost. The voters loved her. She played a decisive role in getting Brexit over the line and will be missed by us all. He did also pay tribute on Talk TV. But again, I just want to stress before I play you this interview, Nigel Farage at this point had no idea about the circumstances surrounding the likely murder of Ann Widdecombe. It's still worth listening to.
She is, and I'm going to put this to you, she is the best known female politician since Margaret Thatcher.
That's fair, yeah.
I don't think anybody else comes close. And the fact that she was sporting enough to do, you know, Strictly Come Dancing,
all of that,
a Big Brother, and then she was touring the country doing one woman shows, an evening with Ann Widdecombe, where she talked to audiences and she loved meeting people, and she was very gregarious, and you know, she'd work hard during the day. And I remember in Brussels at 6 o'clock. You know, so come on, Anne, what about it? Let's go out. And she'd have a couple of large whiskies and enjoy herself. Yeah. And as I say, she was a force of nature, quite a remarkable woman, and obviously a very sad sudden death. And we'll hear more about that as the days go on.
But as I say, I do not believe at that point Nigel Farage knew what we were dealing with. However, people who should know better, look at this. I've just been sent this. I mean, if they truly posted this 15 minutes ago, rotten hell. The socialist worker. Hurrah. Ann Widdecombe is dead. Unbelievable. A much more respectable response from Piers Morgan, who wrote a wonderfully no-nonsense, straight-talking, highly opinionated British battle axe and was always a very feisty, combative interviewee, but always great fun too. Amid so many dreary politicians, she was a charismatic, combative gem. Alex Phillips, who served alongside Ann Widdecombe as a Brexit Party MEP, wrote, "No doubt about it, they only ever made one Ann Widdecombe. The scariest, sassiest, most diminutive of women, witty, tough, loyal to principles, steadfast, reliable, utterly unique. Good luck to everyone upstairs. Widdy is coming to lick things into shape. Honoured to have known, served with, and learned from this titan of politics." Darren Grimes, "Nobody has the right to live their lives being protected from offence," said Ann Widdecombe to an Oxford chamber of students that needed to hear it. God love her. This woman said what the world is too scared to admit. And Nadine Dorries of Reform UK. "So very sad to hear the news that Ann Widdecombe has passed away, an incredible parliamentarian who knew Burke backwards and never received the recognition she deserved. She was a fearsome campaigner who gave barnstorming speeches at conference and captivated the chamber in the Commons. As a new MP jokingly referred to her as Auntie Anne, as she knew the answer to every question and was a kindly mentor and guide. Sadly, she was treated very badly by the hierarchy of the Conservative Party, which I'm sure must have contributed to her defection to Reform UK. However, Anne never complained. She had no time for that. Rest in peace, Anne." And it was interesting just hearing that from Nadine Dorries because, and actually I'll just show you the first time that Anne appeared here on Outspoken, because the room, she was very proud of the room that she would give her. Because what you'll see on the bookshelves behind her, and you can see them in that clip from GB News 2, is they are the Hansard files that contained all of Anne's previous speeches to the Commons, and she was incredibly, incredibly proud of that. And it really did show that she took being a parliamentarian seriously. Democracy was very, very important to her, Peter.
Yes, I described her as one of the big beasts of British politics. We don't make politicians like that anymore. And my big fear is we're losing the beasts. We're losing the people that define Britain. We're losing the people that define our politics day by day in horrific circumstances in this case. But naturally, many of them are getting older and we're losing them. And we're replacing them with insipid, spineless wets. And it's sad. It's a sad day all round. But yeah, those I knew the story about those books behind Anne when she spoke, and you could tell how proud she was of her record. And it's an incredible record to be that powerful in the Conservative Party at that time as a woman is absolutely incredible. Incredible. That was a boys' club at the definition of one, and she ruled the roost in every room she was in. She really was one of those kind of people that you just were magnetically drawn to because you just wanted to hear us talk some more. And unfortunately, we don't get that anymore.
No, we don't. A lot of people will know Anne from her incredible contribution to pop culture too. And you know, that's when I first met Anne, actually, because I was in my previous life, believe it or not, working at Woke ITV. It was before it was woke, I promise you. And Anne was one of the dancers on Strictly Come Dancing. And I have to be honest, she was a regular on the show that I worked on, Lorraine. Lorraine Kelly was never the biggest fan of Ann Widdecombe. I have to put it to you, honestly. But I was. I loved her. So we would gossip in the green room at ITV and talk politics. And I do think, even though we're not a show that covers the entertainment world too much, it is worth noting that Strictly Come Dancing via Anton de Beek, who partnered Ann Widdecombe in what was, I mean, an iconic moment in British television, wasn't it? Ann Widdecombe on Strictly Come Dancing. He has paid tribute today on behalf of Strictly Come Dancing. Let's listen.
The saddest of news I've heard today, that the passing of the lovely Ann Widdecombe. I have to tell you, I had the most brilliant time with Anne on Strictly Come Dancing. She became a real friend. She was fun, she was upbeat, she was positive, she was supportive, she was game, wanted to enter into the spirit of the whole thing. And we had an incredible time together, and we stayed firm friends. My thoughts go out to all of her nearest and dearest and all her family. This is a sad day, and I'm devastated by the news of Anne's passing, but I shall remember her fondly and miss her.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel too, Peter.
Yeah, I have to admit, I remember her on Strictly Come Dancing and on Big Brother and other shows like that. And it's very interesting just to see her described as very game for anything, that she was willing to throw herself into absolutely any situation. And I think that's so admirable for a woman who is very, by the definition of the word, conservative. To be able to be comfortable to do those kind of shows is something that not many people will ever be able to do, and do it as well and as comfortably, and just to have a laugh. I know I disagree with Nigel Farage on pretty much everything, but that story he tells there in the Talk TV clip about going for a drink and just her having a large whiskey and just being the life and soul of every room and every party, that's the Ann Widdecombe I certainly will remember, that's for sure.
Unfortunately, there is a huge amount of negativity about Anne today. I just can't believe it. I told you earlier about how revolted I was that Sly News decided to, from the very start of the day, not knowing that Anne had likely been bludgeoned to death in her home, described her as a divisive person, which she wasn't. She absolutely wasn't. Now Alison Pearson has just said that it's got worse on Sly News, writing, Adam Bolton is a pig in appearance and attitude. Ann Widdecombe was marvellous. More despicable content from the awful Sky News. Time to cancel your subscription. And I haven't watched this yet, I'll be honest with you, but this is as a result of a comment that he made where he is ranting, this is according to Georgia Leah Gilholey, about Ann Widdecombe being a spinster and an old maid. Georgia says just blatant petty misogyny, but it's okay because Widdecombe was a socially conservative Catholic. So as I say, I'm watching this at the same time as you, but let's be horrified together.
I mean,
was very much a spinster. I mean, by the end, I think you probably describe her as an old maid. Reportedly, she claimed that she was a virgin. She had a relationship at university. She went to Oxford University, into an all-women's college, of course, where people like Edwina Curry knew her as well. She had a chaste but doomed relationship with a man who's now a banker, and really from...
I mean, the fact that they have all day tried to deride this woman, Orla.
what the actual... How dare? Who is that man? How dare anybody discuss the relationships and the sexual morality of somebody else? What has it got to do with him? So she was a woman who never met a person that she felt she wanted to marry. She was a practicing Catholic, and by Catholicism rule, you don't have sex until you get married. That is how you practice as a devout Catholic. And she chose a life of chastity. What has it got to do with anyone else? And that's what they're gonna judge her on. That is outrageous. What a misogynistic pig of a man. Do you know what? These people make me want to throw up. First of all, how dare you ever, say anything about someone that's died? First of all, I think people on the left are vile, disgusting creatures most of the time, but I would certainly never, ever say anything about somebody that had just passed away. And now that we find out that this poor woman has come to the end of her life in such a savage way, and I'm just like, and these people are now going online and trying to redeem themselves by saying, well, yeah, but I just said it because of blah, blah, blah. There is never an excuse to be disrespectful for somebody that has just left this world.
No, there's
but
not.
To talk about her sexuality and how she lived her life, would we rather her jump around with a tits out.
Well, exactly.
I'm so
For me, Peter, what I don't like is that this is said in a negative way. Like, for me...
Like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for me, this is one of the most amazing things about Ann Widdecombe. Like, in an era, Peter, of a total lack of morality, in
Correct.
a world of Bonnie Blue and Lily Phillips and pop stars stripping off on stage. And, Anne used to hate things like, the X Factor when they'd, get down on, she wanted to stick to traditional values. And is that really a bad thing? Is that something that should be looked down upon?
No, it's not. But sadly, that man is being given airtime. I don't understand why. I think he's an abomination himself, and he can go F off as well for as long as I care. Why that man is still trotted out like some kind of ancient artifact, as though he has any understanding about what's going on around him. I'll never understand. It just speaks as to how low Sky News will go time after time after time just to get the clickbait ratings, because that's all he's good for. Let me be perfectly clear. If that was said by a person on the right about a woman on the left, they would have been cancelled faster than you can say the word.
Absolutely.
What happened to Me Too? What happened to all this feminism and all this stuff that we were thrown down our throats for years?
Yeah,
what
exactly.
happened to that?
If you're a Christian woman who believes in the sanctity of marriage, which Ann Widdecombe absolutely did, which meant that she was proudly a virgin. I mean, I spoke to her about this. She was proud of it. She wasn't embarrassed about it.
It's
Exactly.
nobody's business.
Exactly. It's just awful.
Do you know what we need to get? When are we ever going to return to a world where we respect people, we respect people's values, we have traditional, conservative ways of looking? And the thing is that makes me die is all these lefties are practically in bed with the Islamists, who are the most bigoted, most extreme people in the world. It's just bonkers. They need their heads wobbled.
As we do wait for this press conference from Devon and Cornwall Police, though, I just want to remind everyone where we are today, because it is incredibly shocking. We woke up this morning to the news that Ann Widdecombe was dead. And we believe that this was probably because of natural causes, because of her age, even though, to be honest, there was absolutely no suggestion that Anne was suffering in any way, and she was 78, and the last time I saw her, she was incredibly vibrant. This afternoon, I received a text message saying that the family's belief was that Ann Widdecombe had been murdered. Unfortunately, I really hate to tell you this, but the family have been told by the police that the cause of her death is a blunt force trauma to her head. Her family sources are saying that they can't jump to the conclusion at this stage that anything was politically motivated. They say her killing could have been financially motivated because she was a vulnerable older lady who had made money via TV appearances, and it was well known that she lived alone, which could have made her a target for criminals. I also today want to remember some of the incredible moments of Ann Widdecombe's life, because my God, she could speak. My God, she could speak. And I don't know if there was any speech better than Widdy going all guns blazing in the European Parliament in 2019 during her time as an MEP for the Brexit Party, where she compared Brexit to slaves turning on their owners. I think it shows what a remarkable politician she was. I want you to enjoy this. Watch.
I say that if I needed any convincing at all, that the best thing for Britain is to leave here as soon as possible. It was the way that those elections were conducted yesterday. Because if that is this place's idea of democracy, then that is a serious betrayal of every country that is represented here. Because it is not democratic at all. And that is just one of many reasons why Britain is right to be leaving this place, hopefully on Halloween. And it is right because there is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving.
Oh, as I keep thinking today, this fight for the disunited kingdom is going to be so much harder without Widdy. What about this moment that inevitable West shared too? Let's watch.
Nobody has the right to live their lives being protected from offence or from insult or from hurt feelings. It is an occupational hazard of living in society. And if you really can't take it, become a hermit.
And you know what, for me personally, was very, very special about Ann Widdecombe? She backed us in this independent media space. And that is so meaningful to me. The fact that in this new world where she didn't need to come on and back new media enterprises, she understood what we were doing. And she also backed my friend Mike Graham and his independent media venture, appearing on his show every week immediately after his launch. And I want to show you a quite incredible moment today, because Mike had the horrible job, and it's a really tough job. I had a bit of time to process this, but Mike had that horrible job of having to go immediately on air, having just learned that your friend and colleague had died. Obviously, at that point, they had no suggestion that foul play was involved. But there was a very emotional moment with another friend of mine and a good friend of Outspoken, Bishop Kai. Let's watch.
Grant unto her, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon her. May she rest in peace and rise in his glory.
That's lovely. Should we play the... should we play that marching band? Because I think she'd enjoy that. Do you know, I wasn't thinking about her last night, but I had the pleasure of watching that last night and thinking to myself, you know, isn't Britain actually great? There's so much that's great about it. You've got me going, I'm afraid. So should we let you just pass on into your sermon, because I'm sure I'll recover by the time you finish that.
Certainly.
Isn't that amazing? Wasn't that an amazing moment? And this was the way that Widdy was introduced on the Mike Graham show.
Only two sorts of people oppose free speech, and they are at opposite ends of the scale. Snowflakes and totalitarians. I am offended, upset, insulted at least 30 times a day. Tough. It is not necessary to flash your knickers to do a decent ballroom dance. Free speech is for all, not for the privileged few. Nobody has the right to live their lives being protected from offence or from insult or from hurt feelings. And if you really can't take it, become a hermit.
Widdy Weekly every Monday it was, Peter, on the Mike Graham show. Hard to believe we're not going to get any more of that.
Yeah, I mean, the speeches she gave were the definition of barnstorming. They were, you couldn't help but get to your feet, even if you disagreed with everything the woman said. The way she was able to articulate an argument and to put it forward with such conviction, I don't think we'll ever see again. I don't think we have those types of people anymore. I think we just see people who scream and shout and want the outrage. She had methodical, she had logical arguments that tore down everything you'd ever want to argue against her because she'd already thought of it. She was so prepared. And as Lawless said in her speech, she gave for 45 minutes, didn't look at a piece of paper. I bet she did about 5 minutes preparation for it. That's how good the woman was. Her parliamentary speeches should be recorded, and I hope they are preserved, because that is how you do it. And I mean, the ones at the Oxford Union were also incredible. She could command an audience with such ease. And for a woman who barely came up to about my armpit, I mean, it's incredible. She was very much felt like you were around the Queen at sometimes, because you did have to bend down quite low. I'm not that tall, but you did have to bend down quite a bit.
I remember kneeling to her and making sure, do you have your champagne? And Orla, I want to turn.
Again, every time I come on this program, I cry.
Well, today has been a tough one, but look, I want to come. Oh, we're going to cross immediately to the Devon and Cornwall Police. Let's listen in.
Devon and Cornwall Police, and I'd like to read you this short statement now on our whereabouts today. We can confirm that a 26-year-old man was arrested at an address in Newton Abbot this afternoon on suspicion of the murder of Ann Widdecombe. The suspect, who is a white British national, remains in police custody whilst inquiries continue. Officers were called to Miss Widdecombe's home at Haytor by the ambulance service around 11:40 a.m. on Thursday, the 9th of July. Sadly, 78-year-old Miss Widdecombe was located deceased within the property. She has sustained serious injuries. Her next of kin have been informed and are being supported by specially trained officers. Detectives from the Force Major Crime Investigation Team have launched a murder investigation and are conducting extensive inquiries into the circumstances surrounding Miss Widdecombe's death. While we work closely with our partners and have consulted counter-terrorism policing as part of our initial inquiries, the incident is not being treated as terrorism. A cordon remains in place at the property while specialist officers continue forensic examinations. There are road closures in place around the scene, and the public will see significant police activity in the area while detectives and other officers continue house-to-house and CCTV inquiries. This is an extremely tragic incident. Our thoughts are very much with the family and friends of Miss Widdecombe at this very difficult time. Our murder inquiry is in its early stages but moving at significant pace, and we are deploying all the necessary resources to find out exactly what has happened. I would appeal to anyone who may have information about this incident, however insignificant it may seem, to come forward and speak with us. While we release further information when we're able to do so, but in the meantime, I would ask people not to speculate about what might have happened, particularly on social media. That's not only potentially harmful to our investigation, but also deeply distressing to the family and friends of Miss Widdecombe. We've set up a major incident public portal for information. Images or footage can be submitted to us there, and this can be found easily on our website. Information can also be passed anonymously to the independent charity Crime Stoppers. Thank you very much. I'll now take a few short questions.
Was the offender known to the victim?
We remain open-minded throughout the investigation, and we're making those inquiries, so it's too early for me to comment further on that at this time.
Christine from Sky News. Is there any indication that the murder was politically motivated?
No, at this time, again, it's early stages of the investigation, so we'll remain open-minded. At this time, I've got no information to believe that that is a politically motivated crime. Please.
Had she received any threats before this?
Well, we work very closely within national protocols to monitor those within the MPs and the political environment. I think it'd be wrong for me to comment about anything around an individual at this stage of the investigation.
Paul Greaves, Devon Line. Is there anything more you can tell us about the nature of the injuries Ms Widdecombe sustained?
Well, again, I think for both sensitivity of the family and friends and also this stage of the inquiry, it would be wrong for me to comment on that any further right now. But when we have further details of any part of the investigation, we will, of course, be briefing out to you.
Mr. Kay from Greatest Britons Ann Widdecombe. Can you tell me about the police presence in the area that's ongoing this evening?
Yeah, so police presence will remain high for a number of reasons. Most of all, we're still evidence gathering within our investigation. So, like I said in the statement, CCTV, etc. But of course, we also want people to feel safe. At the moment, I don't know of any ongoing risk, but we know that the presence of our officers, just to make people know we're there, be available to give advice, etc., will be around. So you can expect an increased presence throughout the weekend.
Was the 26-year-old man arrested locally, or was he outside the force area?
So the person we have in custody has been arrested within the force area.
Was there any struggle when he was arrested?
I'm not going to give any further details about our operation activity today. Thank you. I'll take two more.
Sorry, was he known to you?
Again, inappropriate to comment, I think, on the individual facts of the case at this stage of it. Thank you.
Any signs that anything was stolen from the property? Was the property broken into? Were you seeing it as a burglary gone wrong?
So, all the things that we need to work on throughout the investigation, and the key thing I think for us is obviously all our efforts today are focused on this investigation to get the right outcome for Ms Widdecombe's family, friends, but also to make our communities feel safe and confident that we have some of the best officers working on it. We remain open-minded as to that question. Nothing further to say at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated.
An astonishing press conference. The Devon and Cornwall police confirming that they suspect Ann Widdecombe was murdered. The key information out of that: a 26-year-old white man has been arrested. Ann Widdecombe was discovered with serious injuries, as I had reported earlier. Counter-terror police were consulted. However, the police are not treating this investigation as terror. But sometimes, Peter, it's what the police won't answer, which is most interesting. No answer there as to whether Ann Widdecombe knew the suspect. We have no name of the suspect. And my reading of their answer, Peter, but tell me if I was wrong, is that they would not say if they believed this murder or suspected murder was politically motivated.
Yeah, you're right there, Dan. They didn't confirm it and they didn't deny it either. It is standard protocol in these situations when a high-profile or politician or political figure is involved in an incident that counter-terrorism police is consulted. That's standard practice. It's good to see, actually. This seems to be going very, very well, I think, in terms of so far for the police. We don't seem to have too many red flags so far. I'm not that concerned that on the first press conference they've not come out with every bit of detail. That doesn't surprise me. I would be more concerned if they did, in a way. But we've got to keep their feet to the fire. We know what police forces are like. So therefore, we keep asking the questions and we keep demanding the answers. That's what's our job now. And is what Anne would have wanted.
Yeah, I mean, Orla Hain, can I ask you about this from your formal position as Restore Britain spokesperson for the safety of women and girls? Do you feel like we got enough from the police there? I mean, this all of a sudden, Orla becomes the type of story which is going to dominate national conversation for a very, very long time. I mean, this is going to be a crime comparable to the murder of Jill Dando.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the police dealt with that today in the right way?
So look, I'm no Miss Marple, but my view would be that if you look at the video footage that you've got there of Anne's house, that is not an opportunist scenario. It's not like somebody's walked past, seen a door open and thought, I'll go in and burgle, etc., etc. That is, to me, that looks like it was premeditated. Look, as I said, I'm no detective, but it's not exactly, it's a bit off the beaten track, right? So that concerns me a little bit. I'm still seeing, Dan, the most horrendous things on social media being said by vile, vile people on the left about Anne and about what she did. It doesn't matter what she said. It doesn't matter what her beliefs were. She is an elderly woman that has been murdered in horrendous circumstances. To come onto social media and write some of the things I'm reading shows me what evil psychopaths there are in this world. And that just makes me feel so uneasy, because just because you don't, and we don't know if it was politically related, okay, fine. But even if you don't believe in what someone says, or you don't believe the way they think, you do not go online and say horrendous things about someone on the opposite side of the political spectrum when they've been murdered. I mean, who are these people? So what worries me is, if these people are so ready to say these things online, are these the same people that are so ready to go out and do harm? And it makes me really concerned about people like myself, people like you, who put their head above the parapet
Rupert
to
Lowe,
say what they think in
Nigel
a world
Farage.
of free speech.
Exactly. I mean, Dan Hodges, the Daily Mail's Labour columnist, sort of echoing what you're saying, Ola, saying, watching people on the left literally celebrating Ann Widdecombe's death, watching supporters of reform trying to weaponize it to further deflect from the Farage probe. What's the point?
Yeah.
Genuinely, what are we all doing here? What are we actually achieving?
Yes.
And I don't always agree with Dan Hodges, but he's right.
Just leave it. Just leave this poor woman has been murdered. For
I know,
goodness
but
sake.
Peter, how telling though that it's only now. I mean, I'm literally looking through my X feed and I'm seeing Yvette Cooper, Red Rayner, the tax evader, who remember called all Tories scum. And now, because a murder investigation has been launched, they have decided to issue a tribute to Ann Widdecombe. Well, I'm sorry, we see you. We see you because you had 9 hours today before the news came out to issue a tribute, and you said nothing. And you said nothing because you know that your leftist base doesn't want you to say anything. So I'm sorry, I'm just going to be honest about it, Peter. There's no decency in a last-minute tribute now when you said nothing when you thought Ann Widdecombe had just died of natural causes. So we see these people.
I completely agree, and I hold people to the standard of, if you see something that somebody has said from your own side and you said nothing, you may have well posted it yourself. That's my rule, because you should hold your friends as accountable as you do your enemies, and people don't do that anymore. It's one of the reasons that politics is so divisive and so toxic. We're so quick to attack that we don't actually look at the people that we're trying to defend at the same time. I mean, like you said, when it comes to Rayner and Yvette Cooper and all these people, of course they're going to come out now. It's just so predictable. It's so sad and pathetic that it's not even worth talking about. But we have to, just to show the country what these people are actually like. That's the important bit now. We have to keep showing the country that these people who want to have the moral high ground will call anybody any name if it gets them a little bit of a like or a retweet or a bit of popularity. It is utterly perverse.
It really is. It really is.
Look,
I mean, Orla,
thing
sorry,
is-
just before you come in, Orla, I just want to read
Sorry.
I just want to show you what your leader, Rupert Lowe, has said, because I think you'll echo it, actually, Orla. He's posted, I find it so depressing that there are people in Britain who believe now is the right time to degrade and abuse Ann Widdecombe. Leave it.
Yeah, disgusting. Look, ultimately, regardless, take the fact that it's Ann Widdecombe away, take the fact that she's a public figure, take away all of that. She is an elderly woman that has been murdered in her own home, right? She is an elderly woman who has been murdered in her own home. What are we living in? What has become of this country that an elderly woman cannot live safely in a remote part of the UK? Again, she's not in East London, she's not in South London, she's in a remote part of the UK. She has been murdered in her own home. There is no law and order in this country anymore. The
100%.
one good thing that has come out of this is the fact that the police have actually managed to catch this man, take him into custody, which is amazing, because they never seem to bloody manage to do it when it's somebody else. You know, how many men are out on the street doing God knows what that they can't seem to catch. Those men last night rioting, I bet they haven't been nicked, but they've caught this man, so
indeed.
that's fine.
And I do want to
but
talk.
It's still out of control.
No, and
Control.
I do want to talk about that. And I know Ann Widdecombe would say, we've got to keep talking about the news. It's absolutely important. I know she would say that. But before we do get there, I just want to show you some more of this horror, because I think you're right, Orly, you have to expose the horror of the left, because otherwise they're going to keep getting away with it. And I've been told that Femi Olawale has been particularly vile. Watch this.
Foreign party politician, she knew how much damage worth it.
It is as nothing compared to the sacrifice that we asked a previous generation to make in order to ensure Britain's freedom. Now, I'm not joking when I say, no, let me finish.
And that right there is why I co-founded the organisation Our Future, Our Choice, the youth movement against Brexit. Because she was literally saying it is worth making a generation pay for Brexit. But now she's dead. So she isn't the generation that actually has to pay for Brexit. She compared the damage that Brexit would do to the Second World War. And today, by dying, she has left us to deal with that damage.
He's subhuman. He's subhuman. And you know what? For years and years and years, I've been telling people who Femi Olawale really is. That's who he really is. Okay, he's now exposed himself to the world.
Nasty, racist scumbag.
Yep, absolutely. He's just exposed it. We don't even need to say another word about him today, because he's exposed who he is in that video. You all know who Femi Olawale is. If you choose to platform this guy, LBC, Jeremy Vine, whichever show it is, that is who you're on the side of. And I think we all need to know that.
Who dragged these people up? At what point
did
their parents and their family not say to them, you never talk ill of the dead?
Yeah. And especially not ill of the dead, of a woman who has just been bludgeoned to death.
It's naked opportunism.
Yeah,
naked opportunism. He's looking to make money out of this.
And by the way, Widdy, and you know the thing is, Widdy went on the Jeremy Vine show and she debated these people. And guess what? She did it with respect. And guess what? She was perfectly pleasant to them all behind the scenes, because she was a good human being. And these people are terrible human beings. But look, I just want to celebrate Anne a little bit too, because of course this story took a twist. And it's just important to me. We've discussed what's going on with the murder investigation, but it is important to me that we see the wonderful side of Ann Widdecombe too. So I just wanted to share two of my favourite moments. I hope you'll give me that honour today. This was one of my most hilarious interviews with Anne on GB News.
Anne, so are these woke legal questions? Oh my goodness, Anne, what was that? What was that?
I'm afraid I apologise. That was the call tone on my mobile.
It's like a rooster.
It is a rooster. Well, I mean, it's not a real rooster, but it's a rooster ringtone. Sorry.
That would give me a fright, my goodness. Look, but...
Gave me a fright.
Yes, I know. Bless you. But
and, you know, she had a weird sense of humour, because we actually named that segment Big Widdy Style after the Will Smith song. I promise you that's what it was after, the Will Smith song. But we tried to have some fun with it. And I was a little bit nervous when one of my producers said to me, oh God, we're going to have to ask Anne. I'm like, no, of course we've got to ask her and make sure she's happy with it. Fully expecting Anne to come back and say, Dan, absolutely not. And she loved it. She went with it. So we did Big Widdy Style every week. And then do you remember as well, they tried, the Harry and Meghan documentary, they tried to paint Anne as a racist because of what she had said in the celebrity Big Brother house about Meghan Markle. But she was never being racist, right? She was actually just talking about why Prince Harry should never have murdered, have married Meghan Markle. Exactly. And I asked her about it, and I just wanted people to watch, because I watched earlier today, and it's just pure Widdy.
Not anticipate you getting dragged into Harry and Meghan's Netflix nonsense. However, a 2018 headline quoting you as being uneasy with Meghan's background during a stint when you were in the Celebrity Big Brother house was used to apparently exemplify widespread racism across Britain, Anne, even though the actual conversation, we've gone and found it. It actually, by the way, features you getting your makeup done by one of our superstar panellists, Ashley James. So have a look at this.
People are so cynical before the people are even married. Give them a couple of chances.
I love Nick. I think she's very beautiful. No, I love her.
Oh, no.
Okay, let's take a vote. I think she's trouble.
Why do you think she's trouble, Anne?
Background, attitude, I worry.
She's older than him? Yeah. She's been married before?
Yes. I add it all up and I'm uneasy. But there we go.
So, Anne, you're actually not talking about race at all, are you?
I didn't have race in my mind at all during that. And apparently, so it's been peddled today that this is all not only part of proof that, you know, we were all racist and rejecting Meghan for that reason, but actually, you know, apparently it proves that there was a great conspiracy in Buckingham Palace to spread this sort of malicious rot. I can tell you this, when you're in the Big Brother house, you're cut off from the rest of the world. I did not have a call from the palace saying, "Hello, Charles here. Could you say something disobliging about my daughter-in-law?" Oh, they grow up, honest.
Grow up. That is the message from Woody Ann Widdecombe. Thank you so much.
I just adored her. I thought she was absolutely wonderful. Can't believe we're speaking about her in the past tense. Can't believe we're speaking about her in this manner. But look, Orla and Peter, this is going to be tough, and I did think about it, but genuinely, I know Anne would want us to cover the other stories of the day. I know she would. I know she would be urging us on to do that because, Orla, as you pointed out, there's been a really shocking riot overnight in London. So I just want to say, rest in peace, Ann Widdecombe. We will absolutely do you justice. We will absolutely hold the police's feet to the fire on this. We will absolutely expose the leftists who are saying the most revolting things today. But we will also cover the news that I know you believed was so important. Just finally, I also just want to thank you, Anne. Thank you for your personal support of me when I was at my lowest moment in life. I don't think you ever could know how much it meant to me, but it meant so much. It meant so much because when everyone else ran away, you were there. And to me, that is the sign of a truly good human being. And that is what you were, a truly good human being. So now, let's go. The most terrible thing is that it was painfully predictable. Just hours after Morocco's 2-0 loss to France in the World Cup, violent riots erupted, not in Rabat, the capital of that 99% Islamic country, but rather 1,653 miles away in Sadiq Khan's increasingly Muslim, lawless London. As Joe McCain first reported, police have got their riot gear on in London Edgware Road. And I promise you, what I'm about to show you is in London, or Sadiq Khan's Londonistan, as I like to call it these days, not Morocco. Watch this. Now, obviously at that point, it was completely inappropriate, illegal behaviour. But that was when our Moroccan invaders still had hope of a victory in their World Cup match. Soon after the final whistle against France, things turned dark as the riot police were called in. Police were injured. There was massive damage. Huge amounts of violence. Were you hearing a word about this on the MSM last night? Of course not.
I've had it a long time ago. Someone, one officer down, mate. Where is the ambulance? One officer down, innit? They need to get the ambulance right now. They need to get an ambulance right here. Man's just in the floor for like half an hour. Officer in the floor for like half an hour, they didn't get an ambulance. This is a joke.
I mean, isn't that just another shocking example of broken Britain? That ambulances don't even turn up for injured police officers anymore. Conservative councillor for Hyde Park, the local area, Elliot Keck, raged, as councillor for Hyde Park covering the Edgware Road, I am horrified to see the barbaric display from certain Moroccan fans last night, which has led to a police officer being hospitalised. I call on Shabana Mahmood to ensure that all of those involved in the violence are arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and to deport any who are not British citizens and bar them from the UK permanently. Good luck with that. It got even more violent, though. Police reinforcements soon turned up.
Police are going in. Man down as well. Jesus.
Now, I want to show you what happens when two native British females tried to drive through that area of London. And by the way, for people outside of the UK capital, I promise you, this is not like hours out of the central city. This is literally around the corner from the King's home. It's like a 15-minute walk to Buckingham Palace. These women, though, bravely actually decided to get out of the car because they decided that these invaders were not going to treat British people like this.
Go, go, go.
You hit the car.
Yeah.
You hit the car. You hit the car. Huh?
Go. Because they're going to hit your car. It's not going to do anything. فوتلوك يا صاحبي السنديله Bro, I had to shut the... You see me, I'm a nice guy. I shut her beautiful. You want to take her live? Yeah, man. Get me in the live. Yeah. Get me in the live, man. You see me, I'm a nice guy. I shut the fucking...
No, you're not. You are a scumbag animal. That is not how you treat women. Okay? Certainly not in our country. As Reform UK's Kezia Noble put it, I'm sick of foreign disputes being played out on the streets of Britain. I don't care about your generational or historical grievances with some other group or country. If it has nothing to do with us, then take it somewhere else, preferably somewhere far away from here. And a furious Mike Graham added, what? Well, actually, I'll just say WTAF. You know what that stands for, right? Get these scumbags out of my country. F off. Okay, he just went there then. Back to Morocco. Connor Tomlinson, our friend, added, Morocco loses a football match against France, so Muslims riot in Edgware Road, London. How much more evidence do you need to see that these people shouldn't be here? We would live in paradise without them. Now it gets worse, because this morning, when Sly News had managed to stop calling our dearly departed Ann Widdecombe divisive, and when they had briefly paused from stalking Nigel Farage's daughter, they did cover this story. But guess what? They only referred to, quote, football fans. Just football fans. Let me tell you, if that were England football fans acting in that manner, there would be rolling coverage on Sly News. No, these were not football fans. They were imported Moroccans. As UKIP leader Nick Tenconi pointed out, Moroccan fans riot and attack the police in London. Will we hear from Keir Starmer today that justice will be swift? Will we see these thugs be fast-tracked to prison? Will they be given 3-year sentences? No, because we live in two-tier Britain. Rioting migrants should be jailed, deported, and banned from returning. And you've got to think about the two-tier policing here too, even though it was the police under attack last night. Chris Rose made clear the priorities by posting these two striking images side by side and writing, British police officers running away from rioters in Hare Hills. British police officers running away from Morocco supporters rioting in London. Not a good look at all. And Tommy Robinson weighed in too, claiming that the Met Police were chased out of London last night by hordes of Muslims. One officer in hospital with serious injuries, no Keir Starmer addressing the nation, telling they'll face the full force of the law. Sadiq Khan not saying how welcoming London is. So look, we know there is not only two-tier policing, there is also two-tier reporting. White rioters will be jailed immediately and humiliated by the MSM. But if you are a Muslim foreigner living here, your behaviour is tolerated because the elite class are just scared, really, of looking intolerant. But I don't believe this situation will hold, because I want to take you up north now to Scotland, where people have begun protesting. Patriots, I would say, have begun protesting outside of HMOs, housing convicted migrant rapists. And this is an epidemic in Scotland. Watch. The problem is locals are not going to take much more. Restore Britain's Craig Houston reporting from Scotland that this is a migrant tent camp just found in Glasgow Green in the heart of my city. This is not acceptable. And he says that it is a confirmed foreign national, 35 years old. The GCC paid his accommodation for at least 1 year at Rennie Mackintosh Hotel. He had a UK court conviction in 2022 and now refuses free travel home. Then there are the totally chilling scenes if you are a parent. Did you see this viral clip? A migrant approaching young girls for a selfie outside a school. Luckily, he was stopped, but this was a complete coincidence, by another parent who just happened to see what was going on in a car. Watch.
Do you kids know this man? No. No? Leave him alone.
He just...
Yeah, but leave him alone.
He just said...
I'm going to be parked right there. I'm going to see you.
He said
leave him alone.
He said to them, do you want to take a selfie?
No, they don't want to take a selfie. Go away. Leave him alone.
No, we don't. We don't.
Just horrifying. So what is going on? Well, Restore Britain spokesperson for the safety of women and girls, Orla Minnie-Hain, has revealed something very disturbing. She writes, in the past 2 weeks, over 40 British girls between the ages of 13 and 16 have disappeared in England alone. And they are the ones we know about. Why are you not reporting this, GB News, Talk TV, BBC, ITV News, Natalie Fleet, Shabana Mahmood? Do your job. And we will speak to Orla about that in just one moment. But first I want to show you leading Australian politician Pauline Hanson, currently leading all of the polls down under of the One Nation Party, who flew into the UK to be interviewed by Tommy Robinson. And when Tommy took Pauline around Luton, the point that both these incredible people have been making for years was almost immediately proven.
How excited are you about travelling around Luton? Nice easy question.
I don't know what to expect.
You're a dickhead, mate. You're lucky I don't knock you the fuck out right now, bro. You ain't wanted round here, bro. Fuck up, what are you doing round here, you dickhead? Your town. Ain't your fucking town. We don't want you round here, bro. You're a racist, bro.
What have I said that's racist?
Bro.
What have I said that's racist?
You've got big grin on your face.
What?
You
go knock out it. Do it then.
You're pussy, I've already smacked you one time before. You don't remember? You don't remember?
No,
don't remember? Yeah?
Go on, what are you going to do?
You little fucking tomato.
Look at you. Where are you from? Where are you from?
From fucking planet Earth, you dickhead. Where are you from? Where are you from?
I'm from Luton, mate, my town.
So my council opened a shop to convert the whole town to Islam. My council. The Labour Council went to the opening of this shop, celebrated the opening of this shop. This shop was opened 2013. And they had to close it. So when they were opening it, I done digging on Yusuf Bonner was the manager's name. And I've got videos of him saying he won't rest until Islam is brought into every home in Luton. And then I set up her Islamic profile and started messaging the group, pretending to be a Muslim. And I got proof that Abdul Rahim Green was one of the main people behind this shop. No filming in it today, bro.
Can we ask some questions?
No, not today, bro.
We can't ask questions?
Sorry, not today.
What about if there's a politician that likes to ask some questions?
Not today. Sorry.
No questions?
Sorry.
No questions. So this is Discover Islam. So we went to ask questions. They don't want to answer questions. This is a jihadi centre, yeah.
Now, you've got to hear what Pauline tells Tommy, because her words will, I think, ring true with so many of you. She says, Luton just doesn't feel like England.
This is where our biggest problem, so the terrorist group used to have a pace table here every Saturday. So there'd be 30, 40 jihadis here every Saturday just recruiting. What do you think of the demographic?
I'm gobsmacked because I wouldn't think that I was in England.
Yeah. How are we, lads? Hello, boys. How you doing? Are you Deliveroo? Do you deliver food? Where are you from, bruv? Has Luton changed for the better or the worse?
Absolutely for the worse.
For the worse? What's Luton like to live in?
To be honest, it's a bit crowded.
A bit crowded.
How long have you been here, living in Luton? When did you come to Britain?
2010.
Have you seen the change here in Luton over that period of time since you've been here?
To be honest, it's just getting worse and worse.
What's it like in Luton?
Shithole.
Shithole.
To get to this stage, do you blame your governments for allowing it to get to
Of
this
course,
stage?
of course.
Where are you from?
I'm from Pakistan, Baba, yeah.
How long you been here, bruv?
14 years, you can say.
Legally?
Legally, yeah.
Well, bruv, how are you?
All right, how are you, man?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
Thank you.
Of course not, bruv. And these are our diversity barriers, okay? If we didn't have Islam, we simply wouldn't have these, okay? These will pop back up any minute, right? Because these are to stop cars ramming all the people.
Well, I've just moved out of Luton, basically.
Everyone has.
I definitely don't want Australia to become like this. So anyway, this is not Great Britain to me.
This is not Great Britain to me. And so one of the only politicians who is prepared to try and change this is, of course, Rupert Lowe, leader of Restore Britain. He has been slammed in the MSM because they're so terrified of him. So they had to find a negative angle, didn't they, on his Joe Rogan podcast appearance. But he is refusing to back down. Writing, a Labour MP, Afzal Khan, has just reported me to the parliamentary authorities for my criticisms of Sharia courts, the burqa and halal slaughter. In addition, he has reported our rape gang inquiry for seeking to scapegoat Muslims and sow division in society. He has also included in his report published on his Facebook page my appearance on Joe Rogan's show. Appearing on Rogan's podcast itself, he says, is extremely problematic. I would like to be abundantly clear in my response. I will not be apologising. I will not be silenced. My views are shared by a large majority of the British people, and there is finally a political party willing to stand up for that patriotic majority. He added, Muhammad has comfortably topped the list for the most popular boy's name for the 3rd year running. You can call me Islamophobic, I really don't care. This is awful and demonstrates the rapidly changing demographics of our country. Only Restore Britain will fight this. And increasingly it is looking like that might become necessary, with Reform UK currently in free fall. And despite what some of you might think, because I heard Mike Graham this morning say that Dan Wootton hates Nigel Farage. No, I don't. I don't. I'm just reporting the facts. Reform UK polling at its lowest point since November 2024, with the police now investigating Reform donations by the mother of Posh George, who bankrolled Farage. And before anyone says this is only concerning to Restore supporters, I want to show you the words of dogged Farage champion, Calvin Mackenzie. I mean, this is a Reform UK supporter through and through. And he has posted more uncomfortable financial revelations surrounding Reform, this time involving the mother of Farage's convicted fraudster and bagman Posh George, were disclosed by The Times. Scotland Yard have been investigating since February last year 2 payments made to Reform of £500,000 by Fiona Cottrell, an aristocrat who lives in a cottage. Mrs. Cottrell has been investigated into where she got the money. She has not been forthcoming. The Yard is trying to discover if the source of the money was permissible. She had never donated to a political party before. Detectives have questioned 2 people in pursuit of the truth. Their identities have not been disclosed, but you wouldn't have to be a genius to work out who they were. The pain for Reform doesn't end there, with the revelation Mrs. Cottrell sent £1 million to a company controlled by Deputy Leader Richard Tice. Inquiries made by the National Crime Agency have failed to discover the original source of the £1 million. At least £500,000 of that money went on to Reform. I'm sure the Reform leadership can explain where all this cash came from, but the reality is that there is a whiff of corruption, and in the long term will be bloody damaging. Were Farage, Tice and co to be forced out in the scandal, it will leave 25% of the electorate high and dry. Where would they go? They dump the Tories and Labour and won't want to return. That means Reform will need to find a new, unscathed, charismatic leader pronto. If not, they will go the way of the dodo. And that would be a political tragedy. Now, seriously, I didn't think I'd see the day where Calvin Mackenzie was talking about the need to replace Nigel Farage, his close friend. This was the astonishing moment. I don't know if you saw this, where Richard Tice's fiancée, Isabel Oakeshott, who claims she's an impartial reporter for Talk TV, was told live on air about the police investigation and realises in real time that she probably can't keep pretending to just be a journalist reporting on this party. Look.
We've just been hearing in the last few minutes, the Times is reporting that the Metropolitan Police is launching a criminal investigation into at least £500,000 of donations made to Reform UK by the mother of the convicted fraudster, Posh George Cottrell, who secretly bankrolled Nigel Farage. They've spent more than a year examining potential offences related to this. Another development in that story, Isabel?
Well, I wasn't aware of that latest development in it. Of course, that is concerning. Anyone must take that seriously. I probably shouldn't comment further because it does potentially involve my partner, Richard Tice, who's a deputy leader
totally understand
of
that.
the party. All I would say is that Richard has said that he has known the Cottrell family for some 50 years. I'm not privy to the detail of any transactions that he undertook in his capacity as, whenever it was, it involved a think tank, I think, not actually Reform directly. So it's probably best that I don't wade into that.
Totally understand that, Isabel.
So I repeat, none of this is looking good. And Reform's Muslim London mayoral candidate, Leila Cunningham, has had to launch her own TV show today, the Leila Cunningham Show, presumably because she doesn't want to be questioned herself after a succession of car crash interviews, ending with this disaster on the Talk TV show of Julia Hartley-Brewer, who, let's just remember, Julia is a Reform supporter who has offered to go and work in a potential future Reform government.
By the way, Reform aren't calling for seriously calling for a general election.
Yes, we are seriously calling for a general election.
You guys are not ready for. You haven't even got candidates vetted.
What we're calling for, Julia. Of course, we are calling for a general election. Bring it on.
Not seriously, you're not.
100%.
You know perfectly well your party isn't. Your party is not remotely ready. You don't even have spokespeople on some of the key subjects like defence.
Do you think it only comes down to spokespeople? Do you think seriously?
I don't think it only comes. I think having candidates in place who are vetted.
Nigel's the best person to speak on defence.
Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. What's your defence policy?
I'm not going to go through the defence policy here right now. I'm not the defence.
Because the party doesn't have an official defence policy, has it?
What's the defence policy of Labour? To underspend, underfund, and keep us unsafe at the borders.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Terrifying.
So I can guarantee
what's the reform defence policy?
You know what our defence policy is? To enact the first duty of government, and that is to keep this country safe by all means.
And that is tens of billions of pounds. And where's that money coming from?
Well, that starts with controlling the borders.
Mm-hmm. That's a good start. Yeah, you want to get rid of net zero.
I'm not going to go through it. It's not a gotcha moment that you're trying to catch me out.
It's not a gotcha.
I can't list our defence policy.
You just said you're ready for a general election. I'm saying your party doesn't have a defence policy.
No, you said my party doesn't have a defence spokesperson.
Okay, or a policy.
Restore's defence spokesman, Henry Bolton, responded, "Oh dear, imagine you didn't know which party they were talking about. Would you think you could trust with our nation's security and defence?" Now, the superstar panel. Peter C. Barnes, Orla Minnie Hain, great to have you both here. Huge day of breaking news. Peter, those scenes in Edgware Road last night were utterly appalling. Do you know, Peter, when I was first going through these clips, because I was watching them all emerge in real time, and I love the independent journalists and the great citizen journalists who were putting these videos up, and thank you so much for them. Because, of course, there was nothing from the mainstream media, but genuinely, initially, Peter, I had to do some real due diligence because I was like, no, surely not. This must be an enclave in Paris. I initially actually thought one of the scenes could have been from Morocco, and I just didn't want to be caught out. But no, this is London. This is now London.
Yeah, it's nice to be with you, Dan. I don't recognise the nation anymore. And I don't know anybody that does, if I'm being brutally honest. These scenes are horrific. I don't live that far away from where it was actually happening. And it's scary. The streets of London is a scary place now. It's not a good place to live. And you've got the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, running around saying, "Oh, don't say this out loud. It's all terrible. People won't come and visit." Don't come and visit. My parents are here actually at the moment, and I gave them very strict instructions. Stick to the main roads. Don't get your phone out, and just avoid big crowds. Do not go to the tourist hotspots. It's not safe to be here. Come into London, come say hello, and we will get out and we'll go somewhere else. I don't like the fact that my 60-year-old parents are here wandering the streets alone. I think it's very dangerous. And unfortunately, there's too many people have to live in fear now, because I think Tommy Robinson was right. The Met Police were rushed out of the city last night. Chris Rose's comments about the police running away from mobs when we're supposed to trust these people to run towards the danger. We're not safe anymore, and it's infuriating to having to keep talking about it again and again and again, because nobody has the political will to do what is necessary, and that is put people on planes and say, "Thanks, see you later."
Yeah, well, Orla Minnie Hain, I know you would say Restore Britain does have the political will to do that, but the thing is, Orla, if this had been a group of Restore Britain supporters or a group of English football fans, or lo and behold, scenes after Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom rally, which I remind everyone was totally peaceful 2 years in a row, you just know that not just Sly News, every single mainstream media organisation would be leading on this story as a rolling news scandal. There has been virtually nothing in the mainstream media today. And when Sly News did eventually cover it, they just described the Moroccans as football fans, as if they could have been England football fans. It's nuts.
I know, right? So can you imagine this? So England are playing tomorrow night. Sunday morning, it kicks off, and they're all England fans, letting off fireworks, beating each other up, running policemen over, trying to attack women in cars. There'd be a Cobra meeting. Everybody would be in. Starmer would be up. Sadiq would be up. They would be saying about the terrible racists and da-da-da. It's an absolute... Narinda would be having a meltdown. It would be absolute carnage. But no, this lot get away with it. It's absolute insanity.
100%.
And it's a year ago, Dan, that we had the first protest in Epping when the 14-year-old girl was sexually assaulted. We had riot
And you were
police
far-right scumbags, Orla.
from 5 forces arresting us. Some of them are still in prison.
Yeah, and you were derided.
Outrageous.
You were derided. You know, the mainstream media completely derided this group of mothers.
Correct.
And then, Orla, we see the shocking scenes of that mother pulling up outside a school with a migrant, and the kids are so innocent, and that's just what breaks your heart. What breaks your heart, because you realise how the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs happen, because the kids are like, oh no, he just wants to take us out. Oh, just heartbreaking.
There was I don't know if you saw, there was a man, a video that I posted this week of a father in Dover whose 10-year-old son was, they tried to get him in the car. 3 migrant, maybe 20-year-olds, legal migrants in Dover, tried to get this 10-year-old boy into the car with them. Luckily, he got away. He ran home. He was absolutely terrified. The father went to the HMO, same thing. They completely denied it. Thank God that little boy got away. If that mother hadn't pulled up and saw that man, he could have had one of those kids like that, and God knows what would have happened. And it is happening every solitary day in this country. And it is an absolute outrage.
And Orla, can you talk to me about this shocking revelation, which the mainstream media are also covering up seemingly, of this new epidemic of missing young English and Welsh teenage girls? I was so shocked by these statistics.
And there's 40, Dan, that we know about, and that we've spoken to parents, or some of them are in care, or some of them are vulnerable. There's one girl who's actually who's been in an institution for a mental health issue, and these girls are being targeted. Now, we don't know who's targeting them. I've got an idea, but we can't prove that. But they're going missing I think out of those 40, about 9 have been returned, but the rest are still missing. And they are going for weeks at a time. Some are turning up, some aren't. But when they do turn up, you cannot get any information because they're being silenced. The parents are being silenced. Everybody's being silenced. And I have said for so many months, more than months, that we have now the next generation of rape gangs, because we've got men that we're importing into this country, welcoming into this country, who are going after these kids. And that is where these girls are going. We were in Dover last weekend. There are men loitering around the beach, eyeing up young local girls. Parents were coming to us, saying to us, we can't stand this anymore. We're terrified. I've got, going back to Scotland, a lady called me from Scotland, desperate. She said that there is a rape epidemic, 5, 6, 7 girls every solitary weekend in Glasgow alone are being raped. And there are charities where you can call helplines that have had to suspend their phone lines because they have got not enough staff to cope with the numbers, and they are getting zero funding from the government.
It's just appalling.
We are in such denial about how bad the situation is. It is breaking my heart.
Well, we are, but I know the patriots in Scotland aren't, because look at the scenes outside of that HMO. You know, the patriots are waking up, but you're completely right. Of course, the elite class are in denial. The MSM is in denial. And Peter, that's where we come to the political element of all of this, right? And it's why, and I do stress to people like Mike Graham who are saying, oh, you hate Nigel Farage. It's like, that is such a stupid thing to say. Like, nothing in my coverage, Peter, of the past week shows any type of hatred towards Nigel Farage. I've completely backed him, Peter, when it comes to the despicable hounding by Sly News of his daughter. And I actually revealed that Sly News is a company that has killed individuals before with its despicable doorstepping of people who are not in the public eye. So to say that I hate Nigel Farage when I'm backing him in that way is ludicrous. But I think this decision that has been made with the by-election in Clacton is one of the worst political mistakes of my lifetime. I think that this financial scandal is unraveling. I mean, when you have Kelvin McKenzie, I mean, come on, look at Kelvin McKenzie over the past 5 years. He's been Farage's guy. Farage. He's now talking, Peter, openly about the fact that they need to start looking for a new leader. So this is not some type of like, oh, you're a Rupert Lowe supporter, so you're trying to drag down Nigel Farage. That's not where I'm coming from on this at all. But you look at what's going on, and I almost feel like some of the softball coverage that I've had from the likes of GB News and Izzo Oakshott at Talk TV means that Reform have been completely unprepared for this moment, and they really don't seem to know what they're doing. I mean, it's sort of unraveling at quite a shocking pace, and the poll ratings are dropping as a result.
Oh, yes, you're 100% right, Dan. You've been much nicer to Nigel Farage than I've ever been in my entire life.
Yes,
So
I like
the idea
Nigel
that you're somehow
Farage.
mean to
I
him,
like the guy. I worked with him for 3 years, you know.
It's laughable, the idea that you're somehow... And everything you've said, I've watched a lot of the coverage on this that you've done, Dan, and it's been brilliant. And I have to admit, you've been much more neutral than I've ever been. But you're 100% correct, because Nigel Farage and Reform UK are fundamentally lazy. Everybody knew the establishment was going to come for Reform UK. Everybody with a brain could have told you they're going to come for you. Where's the firewall? Where's the protection? Where's the media strategy ready for this? So the first bang on the front door asking, well, what about this money? They could have embarrassed the press, embarrassed every political party, and weaponized it and used it to actually show the uni party, the blob, all of this stuff that they've been doing. This has been my point about Reform UK from the very beginning. It doesn't know what it's doing because it's driven and built around one man and his ego and his narcissism. And now, when somebody starts asking a simple question of, where's that money come from? He's suddenly decided to throw his toys out the pram and started to host what I've called Carry On Clacton, where he's got top billing with a man who wears a bin for a head. I mean, if this guy thinks he's going to be the next Prime Minister, pull the other leg and there's London bridges up for sale. It is laughable what we are seeing right now. The House of Commons had to issue a statement yesterday saying that if he wins Count Binface, he can't wear the bin in Parliament. That is where this nation is. We've got kids going missing. We've got an invasion. We've got race wars on the streets. And our politics is surrounded by the ego of a man who doesn't know when the music has stopped and it's time to get off the stage. If Reform UK want to survive, dump him, find another leader. Quickly, because you're disintegrating around him and you're clinging on to the idea that he's the saviour. He once was the greatest asset on the ticket. He's now the greatest liability. Move on is what all political parties have to do. Look what happened to the Tories when they came to clinging on to Thatcher. They couldn't move past it. They're doing the same thing. And it all boils down to one phrase. Well, the Tories had 14 years. That keeps you as a protest movement. The fundamental reality is that the Tories were your canary in the coal mine. They were your cautionary tale. You used them Reform UK used them like a get out of jail free card from actually doing the hard yards of professional politics. This party is an utter embarrassment at the moment, and Kelvin McKenzie is spot on. There's a lot more to come out on this, I have no doubt about. And everybody is caught like a deer in the headlights because nobody bothered to do the actual job of a political party.
Growing fury today that Kay Burley, the former Sly News presenter, has backed Andrew Mountbatten Windsor during a bizarre appearance in front of Epstein survivors on the British Bashing Corporation's Newsnight. Ollie posting on X, absolutely nothing can prepare you for this interjection from Kay Burley. Okay then, well, I'm not going to try and prepare you. Just watch this yourself.
And likewise, you know, anyone can come forward. We already have had, as a result of us speaking out, survivors coming forward claiming that they were also victims of Epstein, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Ghislaine Maxwell. So we would encourage anyone, please, if you've got any information, to come forward to us.
And these are British?
They are
women.
British, yeah.
Okay.
And we should accept that he was a war hero. We should just throw that in.
Thank you, Alex Davis-Jones. Lisa Phillips, thank you very much for being with us this evening. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me again.
No worries.
Now, remember, Kay Burley is this uber woke woman who is straight out of the box to criticise anyone. So you can understand why people are like, what the hell? Georgia Greenwood writing, Kay Burley really went for it on Newsnight, sat there right next to Epstein survivor Lisa Phillips, who's literally pleading with other victims to come forward about Andrew Mountbatten. And Burley just can't help herself. Out of nowhere, she drops, we should accept that he was a war hero. We should just throw that in. And then she said he was. What exactly was she trying to convey with that totally random, unnecessary little interjection that his Falklands helicopter service from the 80s should be thrown in like a fun fact right after a victim speaks out? Like, yes, he's been accused of horrific stuff, but hey, remember the war hero bit? The studio went dead silent for a reason. That wasn't balance. It was tone deaf and wildly inappropriate, condemning it completely. Now, Kay Burley, who currently spends virtually every hour of every day slagging off Nigel Farage and Reform UK on X, hasn't been able to bring herself to apologise for this one, simply posting, will we ever really know what happened between Virginia and a man formerly known as Prince? Well, perhaps we will, because the bombshell news out of the Times today, police investigating the Duke are travelling to the US to speak to the family of Virginia Giuffre. So this is a massive development from the Thames Valley Police, with the Times reporting that detectives investigating are preparing to travel to the US to speak with Giuffre's family. They want to talk to relatives of Giuffre, who, remember, took her own life in April last year, if we believe that, but let's not go there today, about her allegations of sexual assault against Andrew. Andrew's former role as a trade envoy is at the centre of Thames Valley's investigation to alleged misconduct in public office after revelations in the mass dump of files related to Jeffrey Epstein, the paedophile financier. It is understood detectives are planning to visit Giuffre's brother and sister-in-law, Sky and Amanda Roberts, in the coming weeks. It will not be a formal interview, as they are not considered direct witnesses to the allegations. However, the family are in contact with detectives and revealed they would be visiting the US soon. Thames Valley have already sought files in the case from the Met and are likely to speak with Andrew's former protection officers. So, to my superstar panel, Peter C. Barnes and Orla Minihane, what is so interesting is that this investigation is continuing at pace, but we still see lots of bizarre stuff going on with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Orla, you are obviously the spokesperson at Restore Britain for the safety of women and girls. What did you think of that intervention there from holier-than-thou Kay Burley, who seems to think that some of Andrew's alleged behaviour should be excused because he went to serve in the Falklands? Did that make any sense to you, what she was trying to do?
I think she's lost her mind.
I think she lost her mind a long time ago, Waller, if I'm completely honest.
That's like saying that that horrendous animal, that monster, the Pakistani rape gang leader, it's all right, because, you know, once he actually helped a lady cross the road. I mean, what are you talking about? The man is Andrew Mountbatten is a predator. Anybody that has read Virginia's book will, you know, we've had this conversation before when the book was released. It is absolutely soul destroying what that woman went through. He's a predator. He's been proven to be a predator. I know everyone says it hasn't gone to court and you give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt. We've got enough evidence to know that this man is an absolute wrong 'un. And for a woman, even if Kay Burley believes it, you do not sit next to a victim and chuck in that little cherry at the end. How dare she? Who does she think that she is, that she can sit and say something so inappropriate to somebody that has been, you know, a victim of horrendous crimes? And then, you know, how dare she? She's just a vile, awful, woke maniac. Get rid of, I just can't bear her. I can't bear the woman. Dreadful.
Peter C. Barnes, what did you make of it?
Well, for me, she knew exactly what she was doing, and she wants to inject herself into the story. That's it. That's the be-all and end-all of it. There is no doubt that that woman knew what that comment would do, how it would travel on social media, how it would be clipped, and she wants to be part of the story. Let's not forget her rather unceremoniously, you know, booting out of Sky News was pretty abrupt. I don't think she rather liked it. And I will always say this. She's from the same town as me, and I apologise. I feel the need to do that whenever we talk about her. But, yeah, again, this is ego. She's an egotist. She's a narcissist. She wants to be the centre of attention.
Yeah.
She doesn't care about the victims. She didn't care. She knew exactly the line to say. She knew when to say it, and she didn't care who she was sat next to one bit. That is why Kay Burley is an abhorrent person. I cannot stand the woman, and she's done this most of her career. She wants to be part of the story. That's not her job. She was there to listen to the victims and to give her opinion, and that's it. She's not there to defend him. This was a nonsense comment. She wants to inject herself, and quite frankly, she could, I'm with Orla, just go away. That woman's done. She's finished.
Yeah, yeah.
Peter C. Barnes, always one of my absolute favourites. Do make sure you subscribe on YouTube and Substack, and Orla Minnie-Hain too, joining us on what is a quite mad day of breaking news. She is Restore Britain's spokesperson for the safety of women and children. Now, the Royal Mastermind. Breaking today, Meghan Markle flying into the UK with the so-called Prince and Princess, Archie and Lily, although tellingly she wasn't by her hapless husband's side as he launched the Invictus Games without any of his family members around him. We are told that negotiations are still ongoing about what I believe would be a very, very unwise meeting this weekend between the king, a devastated, disappointed king, and his two grandchildren. Trust me, if this meeting takes place, Charles, and I do not support his decision, is doing it for the children, not for Prince Harry, and certainly not for Meghan Markle. Let's be honest, things aren't great either, are they, between Harry and Meghan at the moment? I mean, did you see this little dig?
You must, honestly, your kids and Meghan must be so proud of you. Do they tell you every day?
They don't tell me every day that they're proud of me.
No, of course they don't. It's a loveless, effed up marriage. And in that moment, I think Harry sort of revealed it. He did manage to deliver an entire speech and give a whole interview with Woke ITV without one reference to the disastrous court case defeat this week. Watch.
To bring the Games back to the UK 13 years after London 2014 obviously feels incredibly special, all of us. Not just because this is where the Invictus journey first began, but because Britain has always understood the importance of service, resilience, and standing together when it matters most. Today we've had a glimpse of what's waiting for us next summer. We've seen determination, we've seen laughter, some sweat, and we've seen people trying something new, cheering each other on, and proving once again that sport has an incredible way of bringing people together. We even had an MP running around doing the laser run, and Alison Hammond, who I think beat him. But this is just the warm-up.
I mean, to say the reaction was muted would be an understatement.
What has struck me walking around the arena today is just how many faces I recognise from those different groups that were part of the original journey back in 2014. Some of us have lost more of our hair.
Oh my God.
Some of us look younger than we did before. Some of us look older.
That is astonishing, isn't it? Because that's the moment where it's like Harry of the past would have had a laugh about that, like he's poking fun at himself and the fact that he's lost his hair, but there was radio silence in the arena. Keep watching.
The world has a lot of troubles. When it comes to national resilience, let's use this moment, the next 365 days, to lean on and learn from the Invictus community, to be able to help every single person out there.
I mean, Richard Fitzwilliam, royal commentator who joins me now. So great to have you on Outspoken for the first time, Richard, obviously. An old colleague of mine, not old yourself, but as in we go back a long, long way, Richard. Seriously, where does this guy get off? Like, no, the world doesn't need advice from you, mate. Right now, all he should have been doing is getting up on stage and showing some sense of contrition. And I don't know about you, but I saw absolutely none of that in that appearance.
I have never seen much contrition from the Sussexes. I don't think they fully understand or appreciate what the word means. Look at Meghan, for example. I mean, she's the most trolled person in the world, we hear. And of course, the lies they spread about the royal family, for example, and famously on Oprah, then of course in the Netflix series, and of course Harry's memoir Spare was a bizarre feat. But they're not into contrition. What they tend to believe, we've just heard it. I mean, obviously, we know Invictus is a remarkable organization. We know it does a great deal for wounded veterans, and there's little doubt about that. I mean, 10 years was celebrated in the service at St. Paul's. But the problem is the foundations, as I see it, the foundations on which they built their brand are crumbling away.
And it does feel, Richard, in that climate, pretty despicable to use the children. So Harry, Meghan, Spare, for example, posting, when all else fails, pull out the kids. Although they won't be seen by anyone, of course, but the noise is what matters. The noise will camouflage Harry's recent disaster. And I actually think that's true, Richard, because if you look at the mainstream media coverage this morning, so here's the Sun, Meghan a move. It's that whole idea, isn't it? If you're desperately trying to change the subject, Richard, about something that you don't want people to talk about, give them something else. And it feels like Harry and Meghan are sort of serving up the children, because what I don't understand, Richard, is that if they genuinely believed that the United Kingdom was so unsafe, so unsafe for them just a few years ago that they would be putting their lives at risk to come into the country, then I'm sorry, Richard, what's changed? Well, I'll tell you what's changed. A thumping courtroom defeat where they desperately need people to stop talking about one story and move on to the will they, won't they meet the king. And I'm sorry, I do believe they're using the children, and I don't think they should be using their own children. Do you?
Well, I certainly don't think they should be, but I think this has been coming for some time, and I see the Sussex's plan in three parts. I mean, first is, as you know, I mean, we don't see the faces of the children often. They're, as it were, somewhat hidden, which is in itself rather odd, but of course that's up to them. But the first part in this was, I thought, an impertinence. For example, to go to Australia on this faux royal tour, which Meghan, of course, was using for commercial purposes. I mean, we know that. But what we also see, because the Prince and Princess of Wales were last in Australia, in 2014, it's probably their turn to go. And it was, I think, completely wrong, since Australia is a realm. But that was the first stage. What they were aiming for was this, without the publicity that they got. Harry knew perfectly well he wouldn't get security, but nonetheless they used it as a form of emotional blackmail, as I see it, because first we had this unbelievably humorous saga about whether or not he was to stay in a royal accommodation. That turned out to be Buckingham Palace, and it turned out also the palace didn't want, given that the court case would probably, and Harry expected a victory possibly, I'm sure he did, and so he could have given a speech from the steps of the court, or if he'd wished, and then of course the optics of him going back to Buckingham Palace with the king being head of the judiciary would not have been good. But also we had not only security and not only accommodation, but also Meghan, I mean, they released, Harry and Meghan actually had their team release the schedule. The schedule's been torn up, but you're right about what happens next, because we're not about to see Meghan and the children. But what is probable, I suspect, since the king, as you say, wants to see his grandchildren, that there will be a meeting of some sort. But that, we must qualify that. It's absolutely essential, and I think that the royal family absorbed this. William wouldn't have anything to do with it, I'm certain. But I think it's absolutely essential. Firstly, no photographs, no recording, anything that, I mean, when he saw King Charles after he had heard he had cancer, he was on Good Morning America the next time. Well, literally a short while afterwards, when he recently, last September, saw King Charles for 15 minutes, I think it was, and he was in Ukraine, with fair enough, linked to Invictus. What does he do? He gives an interview to The Guardian. So anything about linked to the media must clearly not happen. I do think the king wants to see his grandchildren. I think he probably will. If I had to bet, and I should think Althorp with the visit pilgrimage to Diana's grave, that I can understand. That will be, as it were, also, I suspect, on the agenda. But this whole thing has been a complete farce, really, because you've had publicity which they couldn't have expected, and a judgment which he certainly couldn't and will have to pay or partly pay for. Of course, there were 7 claimants.
Now, I just want to talk about the choreography, Richard, in terms of how a meeting with King Charles could work this weekend. I am told there's no way that Queen Camilla wants to be part of this, and that there's no way that Prince William will be part of this. But what's interesting is that Chris Shipp, and you know, Richard, you would never be this unkind, but I call Chris Shipp's organisation woke ITV, because these days they literally just seem to be the mouthpiece for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. But what makes it quite interesting, Richard, is you know that this information is coming directly from Harry and Meghan, so it shows you what they're thinking, which is why it's quite important to discuss. So when Chris Shipp posted last night that the Duchess of Sussex will not be attending any public-facing engagements, Kate Mancy, the assistant editor of The Times, added, "Let's see," with the suggestion, of course, that there is going to be some type of public-facing encounter, potentially with the king, although you know they all say, actually, all of that will remain behind closed doors. But this is the reporting on the woke ITV website that I want to get into with you, because it's quite interesting stuff, Richard, and it is new developments. So Shipp reports that ITV News understands last-minute discussions have been taking place in the last few days over a meeting between Prince Harry and his father, King Charles. They're trying to find a mutually convenient time and location for the father and son to see each other, but staff in both camps are suspicious of the other's motives. The latest arrangements centre on Harry travelling 90 minutes from Birmingham to meet the king at his Highgrove estate in Gloucestershire. Harry is trying to work out a way for his family to travel there too, as he is keen for his 2 children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, to see their grandfather. The last time King Charles saw his 2 California-based grandchildren was in the summer of 2022, meaning they have never met him as king. However, there is some briefing taking place on both sides about the willingness of the other side to meet, or to find a time which works for the king and Harry. If any such reunion were to take place, it would happen away from the cameras, and Meghan does not wish the children to be photographed, as the couple have sought to protect the identities of Archie and Lilibet. I have to pause at that point, Richard, and just say, what planet are we on? Chris Shipp, like, all the time she's posting the identities of those children. So, sorry, I just had to say that because it's just a complete and utter fact check. Like, it's just not true. But he goes on. ITV News also understands, and this is really significant, Richard, that Prince Harry is planning to stay with his uncle, Lord Spencer, on his Althorp estate near Northampton. It is where Harry's mother, Princess Diana, is buried on an island in the middle of a lake. Harry and Meghan plan to take Archie and Lilibet to see their paternal grandmother's grave. The Spencer family reunion on Friday and Saturday will include all of Diana's siblings, Charles Spencer, Lady Jane Fellows, and Lady Sarah McCorkindale. If King Charles is at his Highgrove estate this weekend, it is unlikely Queen Camilla will also be there. Surprise, surprise, after the negative comments Harry made about her in his book Spare. The Queen does have a family home in Wiltshire where she does often stay at the weekend. So what is quite clear, Richard, is that, you know, she's going to pop off, isn't she, to Wiltshire and say, I'm having nothing to do with this. But very interesting, because what Chris Shipp doesn't mention is the motivation behind the Althorp visit, which I think is to film for this documentary, which they've got planned for Princess Diana's 30th death anniversary next year. But also, Richard, what I found so interesting is the fact that the front of Prince Harry's team to brief to Chris Shipp that they still distrust Buckingham Palace. It's like, they really can never just shut up, can they? Like, if they want this meeting to happen, stop attacking the king.
It would be wise, but then we saw over the accommodation that both teams were like years apart, and there can't be any love lost either. And in Spare, of course, Harry said, well, it was a sort of hate fest against several courtiers who, of course, wouldn't appreciate it. The one exception is interesting, potentially Jamie Lowther Pinkerton, who was the private personal private secretary who was very close to both princes, but years ago, for 8 years, and he's always been there's always been the possibility that he might perhaps play a mediator between Harry and William, but I simply can't see that. With reference to Queen Camilla, the dangerous one, to quote Harry, I mean, the way he rubbished her in some of the interviews around Spare will not have been forgotten. But I do think that the king, keen though he is to see his grandchildren, will be fully aware, will be very, very wary. We've only just seen it with the accommodation and with the security, and then, of course, the court case. And you know, of course, Charlotte Griffith's articles and revealing the fact that Harry told absolute
yes,
lies.
and she was here earlier this week, and I do encourage everyone to go and watch that full interview, because obviously she does explain, and Richard, I believe, and I know she took a lot of flack and I questioned her, but I do believe that what she said in court was completely legitimate, and I mean the judge agrees.
The judge did agree. In fact, the complainants got absolutely nowhere. But I think with reference to this meeting, the Sussexes have a vested interest as well, you know, certainly commercially. They're not, he's not very bright, she's not very talented, so what have they got? They got the royal links. Now, this is the ultimate meeting with the king and also introducing the king, of course, to a future generation. You can understand that. I mean, it's... Archie and Lily, it's not their fault whether when William ascends the throne their titles will remain is quite another matter, but then that's for the future. On this occasion, the courtiers, I mean, absolutely clear that they don't trust the motivations of the Sussexes. But once having leaked the fact, and it's bound to leak, as you know, I mean, from US Weekly to a whole variety of sources, the Sussexes ensure various thoughts get out. The one that deeply touched me, and I'm sure that deeply touched you, was the idea that after they'd met the king, they'd have, for example, a half-in, half-out situation outside Britain. How about that, for example?
Richard Fitzwilliams, absolutely fascinating analysis as ever. So delighted to have you on Outspoken. Please do come back soon, Richard. Thank you.
I'd be delighted.
Much. Thank you, Richard. And of course, it is a Friday, so we are going to reveal the worst Briton in the world this week. Your nominees from Monday, this is your Union Jackass winners going head-to-head. Sadiq Khan. Tuesday, the aforementioned Prince Harry. He'd be my vote. Wednesday, Andy Burnham. Thursday, Nick Lowles. To your comments, Robert Jake 8683. Harry was so obsessed with having to go at the media when he got with her, but as soon as they moved to USA, that's all they do is talk to the media, making the royal family look bad. He should be ashamed of himself. He ought to have his title removed. He brought nothing but shame on the family. Solicitor Randolph, Harry is so alarmingly bald. And obviously that's funny because that's what he said about Prince William. So I see what you did there and I love it. Zero Unknown 117. Andy Burnham for blocking grooming gangs investigation of Manchester. Dale Blake, 1972. Burnham, he looks set to be worse than Starmer. Katrina Tucker, all of them. But first place goes to that Nick Lowles for being a first-class tosser. Can do M4, Sadiq Khan's inner demon starts reflecting through his looks. Matthew C. It's always Sadiq Khan unless Keir Starmer is one of those other options. And he's not this week. So let me get to your results. And of course, we've had lots of them coming through. Last time I checked, it was well over 50,000. But I'm just going to get right ready to see where we're at. Yeah, nearly 60,000 votes from what I can see. And the results are in 4% of you going for Nick Lowles. He's in fourth place. In third place, Andy Burnham with 17% of the vote. The runner-up, my choice, with 30% of the vote. The alarmingly bored Prince Harry. For the worst Briton in the world this week, with 49% of your vote, Sadiq Khan. And of course, on what has been a very shocking day, a very special Greatest Briton, because she is one of my greatest Britons of all time. Ann Widdecombe. Widdy. Such an amazing friend to me, such a loyal woman to me, one of the only people who spoke out publicly when things were at my absolute lowest. And I will never forget that. Widdy, I said earlier, before everything emerged, that the fight for this country is going to be so much harder without you alongside us, but we will do it for you. Thank you so much for your company today. We're going to head to Substack now, www.outspoken.live, but we'll be with you 5 p.m. UK time Monday, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.